Hey, beautiful people. I am doing essentially a recording for next week's broadcast. And so if you want to call in and sound off, this would be a great chance to do it. I'm catching up here after a crazy October. So we're doing content for November, and then I'm planning ahead for December. Anything that you want to talk about, you just call me, and we'll do the thing here. I'm doing more Earl Grey tea today. You ever just get in a tea mood? I think as the temps go down, hot chocolate, hot tea, more than even hot coffee. It just sounds good. Been down making lunch. Natalie got this meal kit service, and almost every recipe wants virgin olive oil. I should do a general knowledge show again, because I don't know what virgin, extra virgin olive oil. I don't get it. I don't understand what's the difference, and I'm too lazy to look it up. Virgin olive, extra virgin. What does that mean? I do not know. I have been, I can't believe I'm telling you this. I've been medicating my head. Oh, that's been a real joy. So this is the kind of shit that happens when you get older. It's like watching The Fly, David Cronenberg's The Fly. Remember, he goes into the teleporter and he gets genes spliced with the fly, and all of a sudden things start growing on his body. He's like, what's that? I don't know. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this does. So all of a sudden I was out there and I was scratching my head and I felt something. What's that? Natalie said, you should get it checked out. Nah, I'm sure it's nothing. You should get it checked out. Nah, I'm sure it's nothing. Finally, I go get it checked out. It is how do I even say it? Actinic keratosis? Okay, well, whatever. And then the dermatologist says, it is precancerous. Whoa, wait a minute. No, I didn't hear pre. All I heard was cancer. Right? It's all your brain picks up is cancer. No, it's not cancer. This is a precancerous thing. But if we don't do something with it, one day it might develop into cancer. Wait a minute. All I hear is cancer. It's funny how your brain works. I'm sorry. All I heard was the word cancer. No, it's not cancer. It's no big deal, Seth. We'll just freeze it off, and they biopsied it, and they sent it off just to be sure that it wasn't something, and I wrote this down, called squamous cell carcinoma, and it is not. It is actinic keratosis, which, if left untreated, could grow and then become the fly. So, anyway, I just got back from having that frozen off. I've got this tiny little stinging dot on the top of my head. It's just one of those wacky old people type things. It just happens, and it's my own fault. I've spent decades in the sun without a hat. Just stupid. Just dumb. And so now I've become a hat person. Hats all the time. Caps on the tennis court. If I'm walking the dog, I'm wearing a hat. I'm wearing hats all the time. I don't know. It's like a science fair experiment when you watch your body changing over the years. Facebook memories is killing me. Whenever a photograph pops up from just a few years ago, there was one of Natalie and me. We had a photo session in the park here in town. And I'm looking at myself 5 years ago, 2020. I don't see one gray hair. I look like I just emerged from the womb, for Pete's sake. It's just weird. It's weird. So then I'm like, well, okay, in 5 more years, will I look like the guy at the end of Indiana Jones 3 who drank from the wrong grail and he decayed immediately in real time, and then it's over? I don't know. These are the kinds of questions I've been asking myself. I've been shopping. This is, I don't love Christmas, but I do buy a few gifts, and my buddy Corey and I do gag gifts for each other every season. Just something dumb. I mean, we'll see it throughout the year. Something will pop up, and I'll go and I'll buy it, and then I'll just keep it for months in my office until December rolls around, and then I'll send it down to Dallas where he lives and go, hey. And it could be anything. I remember one year I got him, it's a helicopter, one of those RC remote control helicopters, but it's shaped in the, I don't know, it's shaped like a 4-letter word. It's just the word fuck. And when you put batteries in it and you grab the remote and it goes airborne, then you now have a flying fuck. So I've given you a flying fuck, Corey. I just thought it was dumb. It was so base and juvenile. I laughed my ass off, and he still has his flying fuck, and it flies around his office, and I get videos from time to time. He gave me a Hellraiser cube one year, lament configuration. It was awesome. It was awesome. I still have it on my shelf back here. Star Trek gifts. We love good Star Trek gifts, but I have been shopping. So let me, for those who happen to be watching on screen, I've been looking at options here. I have a Vampire Tears candle. Apparently, when you light it, and it's all black, and it's very goth looking, or gothic is a better way of saying it. When it burns, apparently it burns blood because the interior wax is a crimson red. Well, that's kind of a cool gift. So I thought about, well, he's kind of dark. He's very Halloween-y. Would he like that? I found the Keanu Reeves John Wick Jesus candle. So it's Christ with that typical Christ, like the white Jesus pose, but it's John Wick's head. It was awesome. So that's an option. I just made a note of a couple of these. There are the vinyl coasters. This is right up my alley, where instead of just the standard coasters for your drink on a table, these look like little tiny 45 vinyl albums. And I guess the case for them is a record player. Looks like a record player complete with a needle, stylus, whatever. It's got the arm and everything. Well, I thought that's anti-skid vinyl record coasters. That sounds like it might be a great gift. Lightsaber chopsticks. We both love us some sushi. Now, I've tried the plastic chopsticks in the past, and I hate them. I'm one of those guys where if I go into a fancy sushi place and they give you the ceramic ones or the plastic ones, they're impossible to hold. Give me the cheap-ass snap-open wooden chopsticks any day. They're easier to manage. But I like the idea. Lightsaber chopsticks. You can go in there and while you're eating, it's like... you can make the noises with your mouth. What else did I find? Band-Aids that look like hot dogs. The hot dog bandage. Sterile adhesive bandages by BioSwiss. Why not just stick a Band-Aid that looks like food on your owie? I think I like it. This is a micro cloth. It's actually a cleaning cloth that looks like dirty underwear. My brain would not be able to get by this because even though I know that when you pull it out of the package, it's a sterile, it's a clean micro cloth that you could use to wipe off the kitchen countertops or whatever. But it's underwear. It's these dingy, nasty, old school, tighty-whitey men's briefs. Your brain can't connect the two dots. All you see is dirty underwear. You know in your mind it is not. Just one of those things. There's the dumpster fire Christmas ornament. It says everything's fine. Little green dumpster with plastic flame coming out of the top. Anyway, that's the kind of thing that I have been looking at. If you have a gag gift idea, stick it in the comment section because I would love to know what that is. What else is happening in your world? What else is on your mind? By the way, and by the time this goes out, it will have already aired, but it will be listed as a recent show on the Line YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed to the Line, you really should do so. It is an amazing channel where a lot of the shows are about education. There's a lot of science communication, advocacy. Humanism is a recurrent theme. But especially on the Sunday shows, the 2 o'clock, the Line Sunday show, and then the Line After Dark on Sundays at 6 p.m., I believe, 6 Central. It is talking to theists who are dialing in to prove they're God. And as anyone who has listened to those shows, occasionally they're interesting and compelling and entertaining and all those things. And then sometimes you want to slam your head through drywall. You want to go out and scream into the void. Why? Why? The people who are dialing in, many of whom think that the ideas they are bringing are revolutionary, when in truth, often it's just word salad. It's a series of vowels and consonants that I think are supposed to make sense. Sometimes I really enjoy myself. These engagements can be, I don't know, challenging's not the word, but you know what I mean? Rather than just have the typical conversation that, wow, the world's on fire and everything kind of sucks, Christian nationalism, etc., to get into an actual challenge from somebody who wants to defend a faith or a God belief. But, some of these people, was it Forrest Valkai? And it was Erica Gutsick Gibbon who were talking about the monad. Somebody had dialed in to talk about the proof of the cosmos or evidence for something was the monad. And it took them an hour to get this guy to give them a definition of what is the monad. And I don't think they even know today, but the word monad kind of took off. In fact, I am working on, I can't guarantee it's going to happen, but I am working on and getting pretty close to solidifying an actual tour date with Forrest Valkai, Gutsick Gibbon, and myself in Tulsa, Oklahoma, probably the first Saturday in March of 2026. And we've been wanting to do something because we all live in relatively close proximity. We just thought it just makes sense. Plus, when we get on stage, the clock flies and everybody has a good time. And a great portion of whatever this event would be audience participation. We do a short thing, right? But mostly we just be on stage with roving microphones and everybody would be able to really get involved. It would be a party. It would be a party. And so I'm working through a venue and I'm looking at insuring the event and how much is that going to cost, and then the logistics and the ticket prices, and are there, do the venues want other requirements, food minimums or something like that? We're not doing food. We're just going to do the event. My idea is lean and mean and fun and fast, and maybe March of 2026. If that happens, I'm going to make a big noise about it, put it on the website, and make sure everybody knows. But tomorrow night, as I'm recording, which is a few days ago for the recorded audience, I'm on the line with Forrest Valkai. 3 hours of us hearing people dial in to defend the faith or talk about whatever. And that's just awesome. But my point is this: if you have not subscribed, the line has a ton of hosts, and they've been kind enough to invite me to play along. I don't know if it's because I've been doing this a while, or they I don't know. They just occasionally have me come in. Am I the adult in the room? Maybe. Sometimes I do feel like a grounding force, like, just come back down to earth. Gravity is kicking in. Maybe I'm the gravity. So a lot of times I just find myself sitting back and listening and watching, as we see some interesting exchanges happening. Subscribe to the channel. And if you want to go back and see Forrest Valkai and myself in archive, I'm sure it's listed right there at the top of the feed. Switchboard wide open. Your calls on any subject. I would love to talk to you. I've got 619 dialing in from not sure where. Hi, what do I call you? What's your name?
I'm Rick.
Rick, appreciate you
Hi.
so much, my friend. Let's chit chat. What's on your mind?
I've been sitting on these thoughts for quite a while now, but it's been 5 years since the beginning of the pandemic. And during that time, it was 2020, and the pandemic got going. And by the end of the year, in December 14th, my daughter contracted COVID, and she was perfectly healthy. And she ended up succumbing after a week suddenly she dropped over dead. And I've never told this story to anybody really. I've been dealing with grief ever since, but I thought it was relevant, so I thought I'd call in and share a little bit of it with you.
Well, I'm tremendously sorry for what has happened in your life. It's a little bit of a tonal shift. I almost feel bad about bouncing around all of this levity at the beginning, the opening monologue, and then segueing into a very serious subject and a compelling call. But I think it is something worth talking about. You lost your daughter how long ago?
Well, it's been 5 years now, come December 14th. So it was already like most of the year into, the pandemic in the first year, and things ramped up as far as a lot of people were dying. A lot of typically older people were dying and people that had pre-existing conditions. But my daughter, she was actually the healthiest one in our household, and she was 23, and she contracted COVID while she was visiting Florida, and she got back. She got diagnosed with it and was just at home sick for a week. And she just, after a week, she just dropped over dead suddenly, and got to the hospital, and she was just gone. Just sudden like that. It was insane.
Do you encounter people who hear your story and still discount the danger of COVID? We had a neighbor who passed away. We had somebody at one of the clubs nearby that passed away. And I remember telling the story that they had died and that their families were grieving. And yet many of those who still didn't believe that COVID-19 was anything but some sort of a trumped up control conspiracy by the libs or whatever it was, or just fake. They still didn't buy that it was truly deadly. Have you run into any of that, given your case?
Yes, as a matter of fact, like there have been multiple times where I have shared a little bit of my story with people, and their first reaction was, "Did she have to ask me if she had pre-existing conditions?" And I said, "Well, no, not that I'm aware of." And what's interesting about that is, it doesn't sit well with me when I hear that question. Number one, because I remember during the time, this whole, misinformation about wearing masks and everything was just like really huge, and all these parents with their young kids that were in school were all, "Oh, let the kids breathe, oh, take the masks off," but like they didn't realize that anyone could succumb to this, any age person, and it happened to us, and we were in the minority, of course, and I kept very aware of what statistics were going on at the time. People that age, in that age category, there was only maybe a total of about maybe 1,100 people in that first year, or year and a half, that died. Anyway, she was one of them. And so, but it could happen to anyone.
How many people have a pre-existing condition? It's so dismissive. It could be anything. You could be immunocompromised. You could have heart trouble. You could have respiratory issues. It could be any number. I would think most people probably have some kind of condition of some kind. And for the response to first be, well, what else was wrong with him, really dismisses the danger. And I think marginalizes it, minimizes it, sort of discounts the very real trauma that you are going through. I'm sorry that happened to you. I can hear, obviously, in your voice, understandably, that all of this is extremely difficult to talk about, and it's very courageous for you to bring it up here. Did you want other people to understand the dangers of it? Is it good medicine for you to be able to tell the story? Tell me what motivated you to dial in today. I'm curious.
Okay. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I can't tell you how incredible it is to be able to share this. But during the time that I was watching, during that first year, and there were, I don't know how many people ended up dying. At least like 1.2 million people ended up dying, and most of them were immunely compromised older people. And I detected a distinct dismissiveness within people in general about about the loss that this country was going through, and as though it was an expendable part of our society. Older people and people are immunocompromised. These were people who had lives just like you and I, had every right to a full, happy life, and yet they get this disease that was being misinformed about on so many levels that it was very upsetting to see this happen, where people were just sort of just saying, okay, no big deal. They were already old and they were immunocompromised, so what? But the thing is, for us, it was a reality. We were dealing with the reality of something that could take any of us at any moment in time. In our family, we have the three of us left now, my wife and my daughter and I. And afterwards, we were still waiting for the vaccine to come out. So when the vaccine became available, which was about a month after my daughter died, we were very concerned that maybe there was something that we were susceptible to, and specifically, maybe it was a hereditary disposition. Who knows? I mean, we didn't know anything about this moving target of a virus that was going around, and so we were desperate to get vaccinated. And I literally, like my daughter, which she would get in the car and she would drive to wherever she could within miles of us to a location where people were getting vaccinated, and she would beg and plead, please, can I get vaccinated? Like, this happened to us and we're afraid and stuff. And she would come home heartbroken. And it killed me to see this. And I couldn't sit back and not take action. So I got up and I went out and I went to the nearest location and I pleaded and begged and everything. Can I get it? And for this reason and everything. And I remember at one point walking unhappily back to my car through this parking lot where they were doing the vaccination lines. And there was a news truck sitting there with some people just standing around looking for a story or whatever. And I thought for a moment, I should tell them what my story, this is probably, but then it was so early in the pandemic, I really didn't think too much about it. And then as time went on, I thought, oh, man, dude, I really need to tell this story. I mean, people don't understand that it could happen to anyone. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
I'm trying to decide whether or not I should proceed here, but I will, and you can tell me if you want to take the baton. Tell me about your daughter. What was she like?
Sure. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a tough one, but okay. Well, she was definitely a special child, and I mean, we as parents have those special children, and she was just one of them. And she was the golden child, and she was the one that, was the joy and made being a parent an amazing thing. And she, was well loved. She loved people, and she just was just one of those bright, shining lights. Like you hear other people lose children who have described their children similarly as being this bright light. And it's just so odd to be in this position that I never thought, a much unimaginable position of, having to live the rest of my life without her. But things have changed, completely different. Like, you asked me about her, but I mean, I can go on and I can gush all night about and all day about her and who she was and everything. But I think what is now is just like what has happened in the last 5 years. It's like life is totally different. Grief of losing a child it's so much more intense than any other kind of grief. People grieve in their own way, in their own time and so forth. But I kid you not, grieving over the loss of a child, especially one that is, well-loved, beloved child that you're connected to and you have a relationship, especially an adult child. She was 23. it 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 ruins you. It completely destroys you as a person. And you have to learn to live with that. You have to rebuild your life from the ground up and rethink everything. Because people will treat you different. You lose friends, you lose family, you lose connections. And I think one of the things I really wanted to mention most of all was to have this kind of thing happen during a time when politics had become so divisive. And with the way things are with misinformation due to largely probably social media and ease of that. But for that to have happened at a time of grief like this has made it so much harder. Because I couldn't enjoy, wrong word. I could not grieve properly. I had to wait 8 months to even have a memorial. I couldn't even grieve properly from that loss. And people don't get that either.
Can you tell me?
I have to.
Oh, please forgive me, Rick. Go ahead, bro.
That's okay. Well, here we have Trump in office again for the second time after sitting on his laurels, during the first administration when the pandemic was, starting to really become a problem, and to see that happen. And then for things to politically become so divided as a result of all the misinformation and conspiracy theories out there. And now to see him in the office again, it's like a continuing nightmare for me, because I honestly never wanted to see the guy's face again on TV or hear his voice again. But here he's wrecking our economy, wrecking our democracy. And it's like for everybody else, you can either not pay attention to what's going on or not have to deal with grief, but I've got to deal with both. And it's hard.
Yeah, to see
it's really hard.
To see the man who said that they had pretty much arrested COVID when it began, and then to dismiss it and then spread disinformation about it in the wake of such suffering, including and especially yours. It's like almost like you've been dragged back to the scene of the crime. I'm so sorry. Yeah. As a
right,
I don't know if you're a deist, theist, spiritual. I don't know where you fall as far as your belief system. Are you a secular person?
I don't believe in God.
Okay.
I mean, I consider myself a spiritual person, and in essence, but as far as powerful life force, things like that, power, in the universe and stuff like that can't possibly comprehend really. But no, I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in God, and I just look at that as just a fantasy.
Well, I'm spending extra time because I find this a compelling conversation, as long as you're okay with us continuing to speak.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. As a non-religious person, I know a lot of people in our culture, the language of, the language of love that they speak often has religious window dressing on it. We're praying for you. She's in a better place. All things work together for good, etc. Did you have to navigate some of that? I'll admit that much of that is said with the best of intentions. People often have a good heart, and it's just how they've been trained to try to show that they love you. Did you navigate some of that? One day maybe you'll see her again, kind of thing.
Oh, sure. And I still do to some extent, but I definitely went through and had to rethink everything all over again from the ground up. And I can honestly tell you, I'm still back, at square one where I started prior to that. But yeah, I don't know. There's this whole notion of near-death experiences that I've kind of dove into a little bit, and it's a beautiful thing to think about, and it's, but I just don't know. I don't have enough information. I mean, to take things on faith alone, without some evidence or not, I have a really hard time with.
I would think that if an afterlife exists, that, if you'll pardon the expression, she would move heaven and earth to find you anyway, right? So we have to work with the evidence that we do have. We may not see evidence for a heaven or a life 2.0, but what was it Hitch said? I rather like surprises. And I understand that, we understand the attraction of saying one day all the pieces will get put back together again. As a secular person, do you have any advice for anybody else who is navigating grief? This is a common subject in this culture.
That's a really good question. Well, I would say that, it's a very lonely, grief like this is a very lonely place to be. And people need to understand that all we really need as a grieving parent of a child, all we really need is for people to show up. It doesn't matter what you say or what you don't say as a concern, because a lot of people really can't really understand it and know. They just have to know to show up, be there. And I don't mean, like be there for a little while, whatever. I mean, really be loyally there forever, because that grief is forever. It's forever grief. And it's unlike any other. And what's interesting is she died December 14th, 2020. And I retired in June the following year on the 3rd of June, 2021. And 3-4 days later, I had a major heart attack because I had from when I was in my 40s, I'm 65 now. When I was in my 40s, I had quadruple bypass surgery. And because my blood pressure was so high as a result of the stress of grief, I almost died because one of the grafts tore, and I ended up in the hospital. And they were able to save me. And here I am still. But point is that there was so much going on at that time, and the stress was so incredible. But now, 5 years later, I've lost most of my friends. I've lost most of my family. I've got 2 siblings who are Trump fanatics, and I can't talk to. I just can't have a conversation. They're just my brother feels like as long as he has his ivermectin stash, he's fine. And my sister thinks that Biden should be shot. That's just a kind of lunacy in the minds of some of these MAGA mindsets. And here I am, just like the outlier here, and I'm alone. I've lost friends, not just because of the way that they perceive and treat me, but because I really don't want to subject them to me. I don't think it would be fair, honestly. I know that may sound strange, but after a while, you start to do these things. You start to realize that people are better off in some cases without you. But as far as the religious thing, faith is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful notion. Some people can take things on face value easier than others, and I've just always been one of those that can't. And I need to understand more and have more scientific, solid evidence. I think religion provides a beautiful a way for people to cope, and a beautiful way for people to feel like a sense of belongingness, connectedness with other people. But that's just not me. Ever since I was a child, I was like that.
I have a suspicion, I don't want to be too romantic about this, but I don't think it's an overreach to say that if your daughter was or is looking down, that she would want you to find joy and connection and purpose and some good stuff. I know that these sound so empty calorie when you say them out loud, but I think I would assume she would want you to live and to
Interesting.
navigate. Go
Yeah.
ahead, sir. Go ahead.
No, interesting you should say that because, I have thought about this a lot about like, what would your daughter want for you? Like, what would my daughter want? Of course, she would want all those things. She would want me to live the best life, to be happy, to do this, to that, and so forth. And that's all great. But the reality is that it's just not that way. Sure, I think about that and I try my best to implement that mindset. But the fact is, I'm devastated. I'm a shell of a human being that died that day.
It's easy
And
for other people to say, "Buck up, camper." I understand
right,
you. It's not like
yeah,
you can control the shattering of your life, and you're doing the best you
right.
can. I'd like you, if you would, Rick, when we're done, to
Mm-hmm.
browse through the comments that I have just sort of barely been able to keep up with out of the corner of my eye, because there was an outpouring of love for you. There's an outpouring of sympathy and empathy and goodness. And I think there's just a group hug that is happening here in this audience as they hear the sound of your voice. A desire to make you, at least for the moment, realize that you are not alone, or that other people get you and they grieve with you, even though they didn't know your daughter personally. They understand what loss is, and they understand when they hear heartbreak in your voice, and they want only the best for you and some kind of path forward. Take a few minutes when you get a few and go back, and maybe you'll find some encouragement there. And just know that, you've always got a place here, Rick, for what it is worth. And it's extremely courageous to tell your daughter's story. I hope that others carry it with them as well, and remember to seize the moments, because this is a finite, fragile, temporary life, and you just never know, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to get on here and talk about it. I actually had not prepared myself for this. I just turned on YouTube and there you were, and I called in.
You did
And
great.
so thank you.
You're really, honestly, you're an extremely compelling person to speak with, and it's my honor to have had you on the show. And I thank you. Thank you for sharing part of yourself with all of us. And we're just hugging you from out here, okay?
Thank you, sir. Thank you again. I appreciate you very much.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Take care.
Okay, thanks.
Navigating the loss of a loved one anyway, but the loss of a child. And then to tell that story here, that's pretty remarkable. We've done shows in the past on loss and grief. Maybe we'll have to talk about this again as we approach the new year or get into 2026. It's one of those subjects that everybody seems to deal with. It's almost like, when you talk about addiction recovery, or someone who has been, is trying to escape or has escaped a high control culture, whether it's a high control family or a cult or whatever. Everybody's, if it hasn't touched them directly, they know someone. And maybe that's an opportunity. Maybe we should think about going back and talking about grief and loss and pointing people to resources that might support them in a devastating time in their life. I've got Ben dialing in from 801. Thanks for your patience, Ben. Are you there?
Yes, I am here. It's nice to talk to you with you, Seth.
You too.
I actually called in before 15 years ago.
That must have
Yes,
been the
it's been that
first
long,
year I
and
did
I
the
just
show,
wanted to
Ben.
say thank you.
Was that, I think I started the show in 2010. That was the first year, and you were a caller?
Yeah. Yeah.
My goodness. My mind is blown. I don't suppose you remember what we talked about after a decade and a half, but
I do, actually.
yes.
You had a guest on, and the subject was talking about using science to free you from religion. Your mind becoming free because of science. And I just wanted to call in and say that, like, between your videos and your guest videos, that that actually helped me escape the cult I was in.
Can you talk about the cult? What it was, what it did?
Mormonism.
High control is Mormonism a shunning culture? I know JWs are.
They are not, but I still consider them a cult because they have a lot of other things about them that are very cult-like. Specifically, you're not allowed to question authority. If you criticize any of the leadership, you'll get excommunicated. You are required to pay 10% of your income to fund their, oh gosh, I think there's something like $500 billion religion now. It's insane.
Well, yeah, they're wired into businesses all around the country. It's an industry, the Mormon Church.
Oh, very much so, yes.
You doing okay
But
these
originally
days?
that wasn't why I left.
That had to have been a rough journey. How you doing now?
Oh, I'm doing amazing. I found my ground, and now, still atheist. Feel no reason to go back to any type of religious thinking. Sometimes I think maybe things like the idea of heaven, or being able to see your loved ones again, that appeals to me. But then I have to remember, well, things that I want and things that are not always the same, and I just have to deal with it.
Did they promise you your own planet? Seems like Jimmy Snow said you get your own planet in Mormonism, but I can't recall. Was it Kolob or something along those lines? I can't remember.
Oh, okay. I'll get into a little of the weird Mormonism lore here. So, Kolob is, I guess, the first star in the cosmos that was created by Elohim, or God the Father. And I guess his home is a little planet that goes around Kolob, that star. That's how that works.
I see.
Getting your own planet, yes, was part of the doctrine when I was growing up. And then I was really shocked to find this out. Only a few years ago, they changed that doctrine. So now you don't get your own planet.
What a ripoff. You signed up for your own world, and then they just rip it out from underneath you. It's a bait and switch. I'm offended by the LDS Church. How dare they? How dare they? How long have you been out of the Mormon Church? How many years?
Oh, it's 15, 16 years. I was having my doubts about the time you started your show. And it was your videos, and oh gosh, I wish I could remember the name of your guest. I'd have to go hunting through my YouTube history to find him, because he hasn't made videos in years. But between you and your guest, I'd watched your videos, and that just, like, I was already having my doubts, and that just pushed me over the edge. I was like, okay, I've had enough of this.
Wow, that blows my mind. We in the host chair are desperate to feel like we're not just talking to ourselves, or that it actually matters. And, does it make a difference, or am I just full of it? And to hear somebody say that it was that the show benefited them on their journey is a massive, massive encouragement to me. And to know that you've been around for the last 15 years, I am just honored beyond words. So you called to thank me, Ben, but I'm thanking you right back. I'm glad you busted out. I'm glad you found your own voice. It took tremendous courage to do what you did. So high five from me and my family to you and yours, okay?
I appreciate it, sir.
All right. Be safe out there.
Keep doing what you're doing.
I'll do my best. Take care. We'll see you later.
Bye, Seth.
It's funny, after you do this long enough, a couple of things happen. And I'm not complaining. Honestly, I'm tremendously honored to be able to do what I do full time. I've been a full-time activist for over 10 years now. It's an honor to be able to do that. a privilege to be able to do what you love and love what you do, right? Despite the challenges. And, there's a roller coaster. And anybody who does any sort of creative work or activist work struggles with life balance. You struggle with, trying to just keep up with it all. But a couple of things happen. The first thing is you become aware of those people who sort of dropped off the radar. He had mentioned a guest who is no longer making videos, which is fine. Sometimes you find people will have moved on to the next chapter of their lives. So they were an activist back in 2009, 2010, 2012, and all of a sudden they stopped making videos, and maybe a life change caused them to just go elsewhere. And you're like, well, I wonder whatever happened to them. So that's one phenomenon. The other one is that the longer I have done this, I see the next generation of activists who are kicking in. I find a little bit of this history when I co-host On the Line. When these young guns, they're young and hungry and vibrant and vivacious and so full of ideas. And, these people can stay up 20 hours a day producing and creating. And, they're just tireless. And they go in and I find like, I could have fathered all the people on this panel. That's kind of something that pops out. Like, I'm old enough to have fathered the people on. I did a conference a few years ago called Faithless Forum, which had a bunch of young gun YouTubers featured, and they asked me to come out and do a presentation. And I was tremendously honored. It was a lot of fun. But I said from the stage, I almost feel like the elder who has been asked to come and bless the tribe. I bless thee, I pass my baton unto thee. And then I guess I go off into the wilderness and, make canoes and weave baskets. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But you do find that the culture changes. So then you wonder, well, what does my life as an activist look like in the next 10 years? And, will I still have something to say or contribute? Will I age out of it? Or, will I become obsolete? Or will I become like the elder statesman? And they're like, oh, yeah, Seth, he's been around for 25 years instead of 15 years. Or will they be like, holy shit, that guy's Methuselah. Next. And they click. You have these conversations as an activist in your mind. I don't divide world changing out by demographic. I think you can be 12 or 102. I really think it's about ability, availability, passion, desire. Anybody anywhere can be an advocate. I think we all have something to contribute. And so there are some people like, well, it's a young person's game or it's not a young person's game. I don't really divide people like that. Do what you do. I told Natalie, I'm never going to retire. Retirement, I think, is the number one killer of a lot of people. The lack of purpose. How many people have we seen in their lives? And I promise you I'll get to the next call in just a second. But how do we get to the point where the goal is to work until you get to this specific age when Social Security kicks in and you quit your job and then you sit and you putter around and you watch television and maybe you take yourself out to eat. You might take a trip from time to time, but where's the goal? Where's the purpose? Not all retirees. A lot of people who retire are always into something. They just start a new chapter. And I think those people they're what I want to be. Like, you are pursuing something. You set goals, you achieve goals, you set new goals. I don't think age is a limiter of that. And so, even if I won the lottery, as if I ever play the lottery, but let's say I won the lottery tomorrow, I would still be an activist. I would not be sitting dormant somewhere. Would I want to live closer to water that is not brown and where there are not Trump flags on every other house? Okay, I'll do that. I might move, but I'm always going to be engaged in some way. And I think everybody has something to contribute. people will sometimes ask, well, I want to be a part of it. What do I do? I should start a podcast. I should have a YouTube channel. I should write a book. Well, I don't know if you should or not. I think the question starts with, what are your gifts? What are you good at? Because I guarantee you, if verbal communication is not your thing, a podcast is a terrible idea. If written language is a foreign language to you, it's not something that you do easily or well or you don't enjoy, you don't have to write a book or a blog, a Substack, whatever. Musicians make music, painters paint, orators speak. Everybody's got something that they can do that positively impacts the culture. And I always say, start there and start where you are. That's what I did for what it was worth. And somehow I'm still kicking. The tribal elder has not yet been banished off into the forest to die. Oh, thank goodness. But the day is young. The day is young. I've got 717. Is it Garrison who is dialing in? 717. What's your name?
My name is Garrison, sir. Been listening to your stuff for a little while now, and I just wanted to start off by saying that thank you for being as kind as you are. I think that is something that intimidates a lot of people into saying that they're an atheist because of there's not a Mr. Rogers like you around immediately.
Well, I have my moments. I think I'm not always, but overall, I feel like I'm pretty level-headed. You know how I get through a lot of it is that I try to think, how much power am I going to give a total stranger? Like when somebody calls the line, and they are saying some of the dumbest stuff I've ever heard, or maybe they're just being offensive. I don't know. But I always think to myself, how much power am I going to give that person over my attitude, my temperament? Do I consider the source? Do I just sort of shrug and smile and wink and try to have a little fun with it? Or do I let them push my buttons, the buttons that I gave them access to? And I think that's been a tactic that has worked for me. Not perfect, but thanks for noticing, Garrison. What else is on your mind? I hear some beeping in the background. You driving? Are you getting out of a car or something? Or what's up?
I'm just on my way back to my house after dropping off my grandmother. I got you on my headset here, so I apologize for any
You're fine.
Sort of road noise here.
You're fine.
But I had on my mind of, like my prompt said, of sort of family members in the age of Trump. I come from a family that is largely conservative and Republican. I have a cousin. He is a Pentecostal pastor, and they all feel pretty strongly about the current administration and how sort of righteous it is. However, myself and my wife are both atheists, and we're both fairly left-leaning, but we both are more moderate, I think, than anything, but the sort of side of Republican things just is so very little to identify with. My wife is Korean American, and our son is, of course, half Korean, and it's very, very strange of how people can, say, oh yeah, Mr. Trump is doing all this good stuff for us and everything like that, when all you have to turn around and do is see how he has made the country more dangerous for your family members. Because I met my wife after his first administration, but she, had all kinds of stories of people who felt emboldened to, just be generally ruder to her, and, up to just being rude to being outright racist. And it really, really worries me for my son, who just turned 1 year old a couple of weeks ago, that he's going to grow up in this era where people feel that, just being nasty to someone that doesn't look like them. And the fact that a good portion of his family members may sort of fall into that sort of spectrum is very troubling.
It has been a black light at the crime scene, hasn't it? I have noticed that the racists feel like they can be more publicly racist. And many of the people we thought we knew, well, we realized we didn't really know them as well as we thought we did. And the more we know, the more grieved we become. I think about some people in my own family. I've got one in my brain right now. She likes to talk about the blacks. And the blacks do this, and the blacks do that, as if the blacks are a monolith, like they're all one. African Americans are the blacks, first of all. I mean, that's the way it rolls out, just sounds tremendously dismissive and dehumanizing. But beyond that, she has taken everybody who has African American descent. By the way, we are all Africans. Everybody who has African American descent, they all do this, they all do that, and it tells you how reductive and simplistic and dismissive and really horrible this type of thinking is. It's interesting. Let me just detour for a second. My nephew married a lovely woman from South Korea and moved to South Korea. And I had a chance to speak to him last year. He lives there now, but he came back to the States. She won't come here now because she's terrified that, something will happen. We've got an anti-immigration campaign. We've got the American Gestapo out there, so it's understandable. But it's funny because he's like almost 6 feet tall and so white he could be seen from space, right? And as he's walking through South Korea, apparently he really sticks out like Americans. These tall, he says, I don't know what I'm hearing in the background. Are you mowing now? Are you in an air hanger?
Oh, no, I'm just agreeing with you. That's
I heard something in the background. I wanted my listeners to know what that was. So anyway, I understand you are concerned about the very real racism that is happening in this country, or that at least is happening more publicly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's what you're describing of your nephew is almost exactly what it is. I am as white can get, all German and English ancestry. And my wife both of her parents are expats. So she is full Korean, but born in America. And, when sort of people see us together, she fits under my arm. I'm 6'2", and, she's 4'10". So, we really stick out, but it's, people can treat her differently. But then if I sort of enter the picture or come around the corner, as it were, that you can see the attitude change, and it's just really troubling. And then sort of layered on top of that of, the religious rhetoric that often goes along with this thing of like, you've touched upon it, I think, a lot in the last, 6 months to a year of, oh, well, this is our manifest destiny. This is sort of our God-given right. And it's sort of, it's so aggravating to me that I can't talk to my family members about this stuff because they are a very faithful type of family. And, my cousin that I mentioned who was a pastor, he and I had sort of come to an unspoken arrangement that we don't really talk about religion. And unfortunately, it's now come to that we don't really talk about politics either, because I don't agree with, what his politics are, because he falls much more on the Republican side of things. And I back in 2016, 2017, I tried to sort of relate to him of just sort of what a toxic individual that Trump was turning out to be, because he's a veteran. And I said, well, look at this stuff that he said he would do for veterans. and he's not doing it. That, he's promised this, but delivered that. And it's like, oh, well, I've still got friends in the military. That's not actually what's happening. And it's like, but this is what is all the reporting is telling us, other than the people on Fox News. Now, is there maybe a little bit of difference between what's being reported on the news and what's going on inside the military structure? Absolutely. That's absolutely possible to be the case. But, when you're talking about actively pulling, funding from the VA for, to send it to the border wall project, how is that benefiting veterans? Yeah, you can make the argument that, oh, well, it's going towards home defense. I mean, study after study shows that, a border fence does not do much, if anything. It's there to make you feel good. Most of these border crossings that are quote unquote illegal are done at legal ports of entry, or they're folks that have overstayed a visa, or they are here on an asylum request and they're working their way through the system, the so-called right way. And just sort of time after time, but it really became intensely personal to me when I met my now wife, and just seeing how sort of, because we live in a pretty Republican area in central Pennsylvania, and so there's folks that act a certain way. Now, we've been very fortunate that my family has nothing but accommodating and kind to my wife, that they have accepted her into the family very, very readily, and that is a great credit to her, because she's a very personable person. She gets along with stuff, but there are times when we leave family events and we're just sort of like, woo, that was a thing.
Well, let me ask you a question. Does your wife ever feel unsafe?
She doesn't as much anymore, in sort of the battle days of 2017 to 2020 and 2021, because of course COVID snapped in, and there was all that anti-Asian rhetoric and stuff, the so-called Kung flu and everything like that. And of course, because a lot of folks are, let's call it not as discerning, would say, oh, well, you're Chinese, go back where you came from. And it's like, A, I've lived here all my life, and B, I'm not Chinese.
Yeah, for context, by the way, this was rooted into the Wuhan lab leak conspiracy theory that COVID was engineered in a lab in China, and so Trump called it the China virus. It was called by some the Kung flu, and of course, being in a country that is culturally illiterate, everybody Asian or everybody Chinese, everybody who was Asian or of Asian derivation was somehow Chinese. They lumped them all together in a very pejorative way, a very derogatory way. Would that be a fair assessment or a fair representation, Garrison?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You hit the nail on the head.
All right. Well, I worry, I worry about anybody who isn't, a white, usually male Protestant, evangelical Trumper thumper in the United States right now, because you never know when a van's going to pull up and some masked agent's going to run out, and who knows what's going to happen. And I think that's why I asked the question. But as long as you guys feel relatively safe, that warms my heart for sure.
Well, unfortunately, we have not been sort of hit with the ICE raids in the area that some of the other areas of the country have. But, I say, that's why I sort of hedged when I answered you to say that if she doesn't feel as unsafe as she used to. But even so, because I am a responsible gun owner growing up in a family that has a lot of guns, I keep them in a gun safe, and I observe proper permits and training and stuff.
Yeah, sure, me too.
But she asked me to show her how to shoot a gun, and to help her get her concealed carry permit, so that if she was feeling unsafe, that she could carry a firearm in her purse. And fortunately, we have not come to that, sort of point, but it is a concern sort of on the horizon of, as these things, here we are. It seems incredible to say that we are only 9 months into this presidency, and I'm sorry, 10 months now, excuse me, it feels like it's been forever.
Oh yeah, the national trauma has just begun. Yeah, I'm doing the math in my mind, going, another 12 months till the midterms. It just seems like the moon. Actually, it seems like the edge of the solar system. But I myself, I feel like that. We learn who loves us, and we learn who loves us conditionally. I think we learn who accepts us and who accepts us conditionally. And I'm very aware of families that have an asterisk by all of the love talk. And I can, to it, in another way, relate to some of the challenges that you are going through. But I'm glad that you two have each other, and you inspire me. I think it's a remarkable thing that you are building a family in this crazy culture, and you're creatures of reason and humanism and humanity. So, don't give up out there, and
Absolutely.
I won't either. Okay, Garrison?
Absolutely, sir. I'd be up the proverbial creek without her. She saved me at a time in my life when I didn't even know I was drowning, and she was that life raft for me.
Now, it sounds like we both married up, way up. People look at Natalie.
Absolutely.
And they look at me, and they look back at Natalie, and they're like, did you lose a bet? They're like, what? How did this happen? I'm like,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Garrison, thanks so much for calling. We'll talk again, okay?
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
We'll
thank you for doing what you do and making this, dark time just that little bit brighter.
Hey, we got each other. We'll all stick to each other. Thanks a bunch. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Some people are like, so did Seth, I don't know how to say this, but did he use his voice on you? Natalie has heard all my bullshit before. She is not impressed. She's my number one fan. She's a big supporter. She's my cheerleader. When I get back and my tank is empty and I'm discouraged, and especially in light of, bio family and the frustrations I feel there, Natalie is my pit crew. My race car goes in and she fuels me up and changes the tires and tells me I can win, and then she sends me off again. So, but you understand what I mean? She's not impressed. She has seen beyond the veneer, beyond the airbrushing, beyond the ready for broadcast version that we often will project in public. I mean, what you see is me, but you're not seeing me when I'm walking around with bad head and bad breath at 5 a.m, grumbling about the fact that I've got to clean up cat vomit on the ground again, or whatever's going on. When I wake up cranky or whatever. And so, some people are like, so when you met Natalie, did you use your voice to try, not to seduce, but you know what I mean? Did you woo her? That's the word I'm looking for, with your voice. And Natalie always calls me the silver-tongued devil and kind of winks out. I'm like, you silver-tongued devil. I'm like, no, I don't think it was that. I don't think it was that. I think it would take more than that. It's more than a tonal quality to impress the woman. So apparently she saw something, and I am delighted. We hit 11 years of marriage. We've been together for 16. What's funny is before we got married, we lived together for years. And my religious parents were scandalized. When I was growing up, it was called shacking up. They say, oh, they're shacking up together. When people were living together without being married, it was a big deal. In a Fundy household, they're living in sin. And they're having carnal relations without God. Because you have to have a signature on the marriage certificate. It was scandalous enough that I was a divorcee, but then to live together. And of course, Natalie and I were a family, as much a family then as we are now. And I always like to talk about how, you don't have to have a signature on a piece of paper to be a family. Actually, you don't even have to have biology to be a family. And there are a lot of people, myself included, who continue to go through this thing where you look at it and like, well, there's your mother and your father and your siblings and your cousin and your aunts and your uncles and blah, 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 blah. And some of us are related to people we don't relate to. Natalie's the family I've chosen. I would not go back. I won the lottery. And I know it. She's the person that will sit at our Thanksgiving table with me. She's the person who's going to counsel me and, tell me that I'm, she's good as an advisor. She's a good centering force. Doesn't put up with any bullshit. And she's also, cheerleader's not the word, but you know what I mean? Like, if I'm out on the tennis court, we go watch each other play a match, which is weird, I guess, for partners. I'll get to you on the, hang on just a second. I think it's Karina on the switchboard. But if she's playing a USTA tennis match tonight, I'm going to bundle up and I'm going to go out and watch the match because it's fun. I'm going to go and cheer her on. Great shot. Let's go. Let's go. You got this. Let's do it. Here we go. And when she hits a good shot and she turns around and sees my face, it's I don't know, it's good. And I feel the same. I'm like a little kid at Little League. When I'm out there and something happens and I turn around and I see her and she's high-fiving or smiling or I screw up and she's like, oh my God, or whatever. It's something that we share. She is my person. She's got my back. And, I don't know. I don't know why I'm going off, but we won the lottery, Garrison. We won the lottery. Let's talk to, did I get it right on the name? Is it Karina?
Yep.
Thank you so much for calling in. What's on your mind?
So I've just been thinking about the rise of anti-intellectualism, even though it's been relatively prevalent in American culture for a while.
Ever.
It's really been rising significantly at this point, and it's very concerning to me as a college student.
What are you studying in college?
So I'm a double major in psychology and English studies.
And you look around at the celebrated ignorance of the United States, or so many in the United States. My feelings are more valid than their facts, and part of you dies inside. Is that right, Karina?
Yes, it's partially very annoying sometimes to talk to people, and they would reference, well, I don't feel like something, and I'm like, but the facts say otherwise. Why don't you research?
I think most people believe not for reasons of evidence. I think they believe for reasons of confirmation bias or identity, sometimes bigotry. I think sometimes laziness. It's like when you and I speak to somebody about the tenets of their faith, often we know more about somebody's Christianity than the Christian actually knows, and yet the more we highlight, the more they seem to not care, or they just reject our challenges outright. It is frustrating. They're, I think, creatures of, where is it, who was it? Was it Bernard Shaw, Bertrand Russell? Someone was talking about how we don't invoke faith in matters of fact. We don't say, I believe it on faith when it comes to 2 + 2 = 4. But people do it with their gods because they want to substitute emotion for evidence. As a psychology student, do you think that would be a way of saying it? Emotion over evidence?
To an extent, yes, but also because religion mostly is childhood indoctrination, so you kind of have no choice. You just trust your parents or caregivers or whoever tells you that religion is real, so you don't really question it. And I guess there is some evolutionary basis to it to an extent that you just trust implicitly to people around you who take care of you, and you don't question what kind of beliefs they're passing on onto you.
Do you ever watch the Daily Show clips where their correspondents go out to Trump rallies with a microphone and a camera and ask them basic questions? It is anti-intellectualism writ large. And you fear for the species. You think maybe we deserve the killer asteroid. You ever see any of that stuff?
Yes, I've seen that a lot on both YouTube and other platforms.
So, as someone who studies the human mind, do you feel like there's a path forward? Is there a way to produce the crack that lets in the light? How do we break through, or can we break through? What do you think?
I think that does depend a lot on person to person basis because we are so unique in a way. So there's not like a cookie cutter way to get someone out of religion or like convince them otherwise of something. And it is harder to like deconstruct something that you've got into emotionally or not logically, or something that you've just kind of like known because that's what you were told. But at the same time, if someone is willing to do the work and deconstruct and look back at what they were taught and why, I think it is really possible. And I think if you learn a lot of psychology, that would also be beneficial. So you can also understand that humans are naturally just biased. So that can help you see past your emotional reactions to certain things and realize, oh, am I being just biased, or is this like a valid feeling for the response?
Someone in the chat fairly said, liberals are not immune from this. And you would agree, we're all human beings. I have seen many people, and I've been guilty myself of leaning into an emotional response, belief in the brain, confirmation bias, lazy thinking. I've shared things that weren't properly vetted and got burned. I've had ideas that were unfortunate and got burned. And I will make mistakes moving forward because I am far from a perfect thinker. Nobody's immune, right?
Yes, well, exactly. That's kind of like the purpose of, like, I guess, human psychology in a way. It kind of preserves our way of thought. And another thing is cognitive dissonance, is that, like, you learn two facts that kind of contradict each other, and you have to make sense of that. And for a lot of religious people, they try to just get rid of cognitive dissonance by, rationalizing things or doing circular reasoning to convince themselves that their initial point of view or opinion is like the most valid, so they discard the other fact or opinion.
Karina, did you break out of a religion? Did you deconstruct out of something, or have you always been smarter than the rest of us? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, I was raised in Russian Orthodox Church, so I guess that is kind of like my background with, Christianity. But at the same time, I don't think I ever was like that deep in it to ever be convinced that it's real. And also, like, I have like my children's Bible, and I've read it several times, and it's just been more confusing than anything because it was started in like Genesis, and it would be like, oh, Adam and Eve, and then they got kicked out of paradise, and then they go on and have kids, and then you have to wonder, well, aren't we like against incest? Like, how did they make so many people with just two people?
Oh, I wish I had had a tenth of your critical thinking skills when I was a kid. Back when I was young, it was like, oh, great, a couple of cosmically conjured garden nudists who talk to snakes. Makes perfect sense to me. And then I carried that with me into adulthood and beat myself up when I finally busted out. I'm glad to meet somebody who is interested and a proponent of science out there, Karina. I think that's something that the world, certainly this country, needs more of. So you keep sciencing out there and promoting intellectualism, and we'll do our best to try to encourage everyone, including ourselves, to be creatures of the evidence as best we can. Anything else before I move on?
No, I just want to say thank you for the work you do. I think it's very valuable, and I really, I'm not an activist, but I say that I really want to try to get into that sphere, the kind of sphere that you're in, to maybe promote change or something like that.
I think you, honestly, as someone who is, I don't know, you are going to be a proponent of science. I think that's a great place to start. And I'd be excited to see where your journey takes you. Thanks for the kind words and the encouragement. And keep sciencing, my friend, okay?
Yep, thank you.
All right, we'll see you. Who was it who said, we were talking about how, gosh, forgive me, this is what happens late in the day when I'm trying to put a thought together, but it was about, well, doesn't religion make a lot of people happy? And there was that famous line about, well, is that even an argument? But a religious person is happier than a non-religious person is like saying a drunk person is happier than a sober one. So does that validate being drunk, to be inebriated? There was also another line, a famous quote that I cannot source off the cuff here, but it was about how, intellectuals, people who are more educated, who are better thinkers about the world, often may be less happy because of their understanding of what is actually going down. I think happiness is a goal, but happiness is not a determiner as to what is true and what is not, right? I would rather live a more difficult reality than pinball around inside a happy fantasy. That's just where I fall. I think some other people might admit, hey, I don't care if you plug me into the matrix and it's all bogus, but I'm happy. Then happy for me is the end zone, and I don't care about the rest of it. They're honest enough to at least say it out loud. I myself don't think I could go back. I think, well, it's messier out here in the real world. It's sometimes a lot more grievous. It's more of a burden. It keeps me up at night more. I don't have a content heart the way I did when I was, but I was only content back then because I was ignorant. I didn't truly understand what was going on. My world was a thimble, instead of, you could fit it in a thimble instead of it being the vast, wild, wide, sometimes crazy ocean that is the reality out there. I don't know. I'm something I was just thinking of. Are you happier in some ways? Are you more burdened in other ways? For you, what's the journey like on the other side of a high control faith, bad ideas, superstition, mythology, etc.? This is the question that I will leave you with today. Thank you so much to everybody who called. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of the community. Let's rendezvous, and we will one day do it again.